As the Minister representing the Malaysian government to be here today, it is not just to express our solidarity, but it is a commitment and a promise that the search will go on. I'm glad that there are some progress in some of the new research and new technologies which have been presented. And we really hope that the search can find the plane and to give the truth to the next of kins. And we all want to provide closure for the families. Once again, we are standing with you. We will continue to support.
Baik, itu apa kata Menteri Pengangkutan Anthony Loke Siu Fook berkaitan dengan perkembangan terkini berkenaan pencarian pesawat MH370. 10 tahun selepas kehilangannya, kita masih mempunyai banyak persoalan berbanding jawapan. Banyak teori konspirasi, puluhan serpihan telah pun ditemui, tetapi tidak ada satu jawapan yang konklusif berkenaan dengan apa yang terjadi kepada pesawat yang membawa 239 nyawa itu. Jadi, sebenarnya ulang tahun 10 kehilangan MH370 itu menjadi topik perbincangan kita pada hari ini dalam Dialog Tiga Penjuru. Saya disertai oleh Grace Nathan, waris kepada mangsa yang hilang dalam pesawat MH370. Blaine Gibson adalah debris hunter yang sedang giat melakukan pencarian secara peribadi serpihan-serpihan atau sebarang petanda kepada kehilangan MH370, dan juga KS Narendran adalah waris juga yang menyertai kami secara atas talian dari India. Dan izinkan saya meneruskan perbincangan ini dalam bahasa Inggeris. Naren, Blaine and also Grace, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to start with Blaine. So 10 years on, where are we now in the search for MH370?
Where we are now in the search for MH370 is there have been 2 searches which failed to find the plane. There is both old and new credible evidence to support another search. There are unsearched areas nearby where was searched before. And I'm very happy to hear that there is a proposal that Ocean Infinity has made, a no fine, no fee proposal, so that Malaysia only has to pay if the plane is found. And it's my hope that they will approve the contract and the search will proceed, and we will put this mystery behind us and bring the families, the flying public, and the Malaysian people the answers that they deserve.
Grace, what do you hope will come out of this search if it is going to indeed materialize?
I really hope that the plane is found, of course. I hope that this is the last search for that reason. I hope that the plane is found, and I hope that it brings us closer to finding all of the answers that we've been asked for, from the questions that we've been asking for the last 10 years.
Naren, what do you hope will be the outcome of that search? And are you hopeful that the government will agree to the search being restarted?
Oh, that's a big if, isn't it? Whether the government will agree. Because from the words that I've heard at the anniversary event, it seems that the Minister Loke, the Transport Minister, was sincere. He meant what he said when he said he'd like to bring the search on this year, perhaps, and also that we solve this mystery once and for all. These are the words that I hear him saying. So I take him at his word, but I know governments have a way of working where the best of intentions may not meet the requirement and the standard that the government sets. So we'll have to see how it goes. So I'm cautiously optimistic. There is still very much ground to be covered. There are terms to be agreed. There's commercials to be settled. There's an agreement on search area that eventually the government has to walk along with. So there's many a mile still to go. But I think 2024 will probably be a significant year for the search and investigation. I have 2 things to really look forward to. One is whether we find the plane or not, one way or another, some questions will perhaps get settled. Some questions of the science, some questions of the technologies used, the methods used, the assumptions made to come to a determination of a search area. But, some of these I think will get settled, or I'm hoping will get settled, because a number of recommendations on where to look for. The company that will undertake the search will perhaps go with its best advice and best judgment. But eventually, I think depending upon the outcome, we will know which of those assumptions and which of those methods that were used to come to a certain determination of a search area eventually have yielded answers. So I think there is more to the search than just finding the plane. That it is also about science, I suppose, and what science got us the results that we were looking for. I also believe that the search is a component, an element that goes into finding answers. The search is not the answer. Because we still need to know what happened to the plane, why it disappeared, who or why led to its disappearance. All right. And so the questions are important, and the search is, to my mind, one of the ways and an aid to finding answers. It's not the end all from my point of view.
Grace, what do you make of the work and the quality of the outcome that has come out of past searches done by the government?
Well, I mean, it's never a guarantee that the plane is found whenever a search starts, but it's the first step in the right direction. And the fact that the searchers have failed before this does not mean that the plane is not there. It just means that they have to look harder. It could be somewhere else, but it could be just slightly outside the search area. But the whole point of this exercise is to keep searching so that the plane can be uncovered and the plane can be found.
Yeah. Blaine, of course, you are renowned for conducting, if I can call them searches or investigations on your own. So how do you contrast those with the official work that has been done by the government of Malaysia as well as other governments that were involved?
Well, what I have been doing is my own private search for floating debris. And that's much easier than what the government and Ocean Infinity are doing, which is a very deep underwater search to find the main wreckage of the plane. When I found out that there was no official search of beaches and shorelines being done, I realized that I could contribute to that by simply listening to oceanographers and going to the areas where their drift analysis showed that debris would arrive and when it would arrive there, and put out the word with local people to be on the lookout for debris. That has led me to find myself about 7 pieces of 370 debris, but more important, it has led to other people, local people, bringing me pieces of debris. And the big help to that were the 370 families when they came to Madagascar and gave an appeal to be on the lookout for debris and offered a small reward for bringing debris. It's Africa. People brought me pieces after that, which we handed in together. So it's the work not just of me, but of the Madagascar people, the 370 families, and then I didn't find all the debris. I found about half of it. 15 other people, in fact it's almost 20 now because other pieces have been found, people in 6 different countries, totally unrelated to me, have found debris that is even more important than what I have found. The most important being the Tanzania fishermen on Pemba Island who found the wing flap, the largest piece of debris. The left outboard flap on Mauritius, found by 2 French tourists, confirmed to be from Malaysia 370. So those people have also contributed a tremendous amount, all private citizens, in bringing the debris. But that's easier than searching underwater.
But what are the processes that these debris have to go through to verify that they were indeed or they are indeed from MH370?
If they have matching serial numbers, then they can definitely confirm it as being from 9MMRO, which is the aircraft for Malaysia 370. There are many other pieces in the official debris report that they list from being from likely to almost certainly from the plane. Well, they're all from the plane. There's really nothing else they could be from. However, since most of the pieces are small, because the plane tragically shattered on impact, they don't have serial numbers written on every small piece of debris. So what they do is they match the honeycomb, they match the paint, they match the little part numbers on the high lock pins, they match the stencil, the carbon fiber polymer. They identify where it is from on the plane. In the case of the monitor case, which is the case around the back of the TV on the seat in front of you in economy class, they even had some of the Malaysia Airlines seat fabric left on it. So they're able to tell that it is definitely from a Boeing 777. The only Boeing 777 that is missing is the one in the Southern Indian Ocean, 370. And they even went so far as to make sure that they had recovered other pieces, equivalent pieces of MH17, so that there was no duplication. There was no way that it got mixed up. So all of those are from the plane, even though they use the sort of hedge words just to be on the safe side, likely to almost certainly.
Right. So have any of these discoveries actually been officially forwarded or communicated to the authorities for them to further or change their strategies in their search? And has anything been done or changed in relation to what you or other people of, say, Madagascar have found?
We learned a lot from the floating debris. The fact that all of the floating debris went to Africa on the African side, and none of it to Australia and Tanzania and Tasmania on the Australian side. The fact that the debris went to Tanzania instead of Tasmania, that tells us that the plane crash was somewhere north of about 36 degrees south or 33 degrees south, depending on which oceanographic analysis you listen to. So that has been very helpful. Where they were originally searching before the debris evidence appeared, way down around 40 degrees south, no, it didn't crash that far south. So the debris helped identify the crash area by using oceanography. You then match that with the Inmarsat data, with this new pioneered method of whisper data, weak radio signal, and you identify a more precise location where the aircraft may be. The second thing that the debris has done, which has been very important, there was an original theory out there that this was a controlled intact ditching by a suicidal pilot, and that he ditched the plane underwater so it's intact and would never be recovered. The floating debris has disproven that theory. There is no way it was a controlled intact ditching. There have been a lot of pieces of debris from the main cabin recovered, shattered small pieces of debris, and the wing flap was retracted in flight mode, not deployed as it would be during a landing. So we learned enough about how the plane impacted the water and enough about where it is to help narrow down the search area, but not to define it exactly. It's imprecise. We know something about where the plane crashed, we know something about how it crashed, but we do not know who was flying it, how, or why. And we need to find the plane to know.
And the hows and the whys, and also the theory of the controlled ditching, is one of the many conspiracy theories that have popped up over the years. I think just by virtue of it having been such a long time that we haven't gotten any conclusive answers has actually given rise to many conspiracy theories. And we've had documentaries recently outlining some conspiracy theories. I'm just wondering, as family members, as next of kins, whenever you hear a new theory, what do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel optimistic that there might be a new lead? Or does it hurt, or is it offensive for you that these theories come up? Grace.
There are many types of theories that come up. In fact, till today, I regularly receive messages from strangers through my social media channels, be it Instagram, be it Facebook, with people bringing forward all sorts of theories. So I get theories from they range. So some of them are like, I had a bad dream, and in my dream I saw where the plane was. I think the plane is X, Y, and Z. There will be someone else who comes and says, well, I read tarot cards and I know where the plane is. I read a crystal ball and I know where the plane is. I get these regularly on a weekly basis. And sometimes I get theories that are a little bit more, that sound a little bit more educated because they are filled with mathematical data, formulas, calculations. And in those instances, I do send it to the group of independent experts and I have them have a look at it because I can't understand it. I can't synthesize it or summarize it. So they have a look at it and then they just tell me like, look, this is nonsense. And we haven't had anything credible come from these kinds of sources before. And so what I normally do is when it's something completely outrageous, I immediately dismiss it. I don't entertain it at all because it takes such a heavy emotional and mental toll that I just don't want to give myself that burden. I feel like I have enough going on. And with the stuff that sounds a little bit more credible, then I just send it off to other people to have a look at and then take it from there. But overall, I feel like it does more damage than good. And I always tell these people that come to me with these theories, I just say like, ask yourself one question, is it supported by any evidence? And of all the theories out there, there is only one theory that is supported by evidence, and that is the official narrative. That official narrative is supported and corroborated by several independent sources of evidence, the Inmarsat data, the Whisper data, the debris. So that is the only theory that I give any thought to.
If you may remind our audience again, that theory is that MH370 most likely ended its flight in the Indian Ocean.
Yes, that MH370 turned around, continued flying, and eventually ended its flight in the southern Indian Ocean. That is the official narrative, the only narrative that I put any weight behind.
Naren, what's your approach, and how do you take all these theories that come up every now and then for the past decade?
To a great extent, I think Grace captures the essence of what my response has been to. First of all, I believe that people who reach out to me and perhaps others with information, with sometimes photographs and sometimes with graphs and some sketches and so on, do that in good faith. I have not ascribed any malified intentions. I have ascribed essentially good intentions and perhaps a wish to be helpful. So by and large, that's been my initial response. But I've also had to tell many a correspondent that they need to approach the authorities with the information or evidence that they believe will point to where the plane is, because the organization or the entity that can actually act on their input is the government of Malaysia. They are mandated to act on it, or at least respond to it, and they have a responsibility for the search, investigation, and finding the plane. So they need to approach the government rather than approach us. And perhaps in their own understanding, people who write to us maybe believe that we have a far greater access and a lot more power to influence outcomes with the government than what we actually experience. Our voice matters. Our efforts to nudge the government have made a difference. But to believe that we are the prime movers of anything that the government does is incorrect. So I would often ask and urge people, if they have solid information and substantive evidence, to actually make the case to the government of Malaysia so that they can act on it.
So coming back to Blaine and also Grace, you are willing to dismiss other theories. You know, of course, you've got the crazier theories out there. There's a very offensive theory that the passengers were kidnapped, being held in some place, that there was a deranged pilot doing all this with the transponder being shut off and everything. So you are single-minded in what you think happened to the flight. Yeah, Blaine first.
I am not single-minded about what happened to the flight. When I started out my own independent investigation at my own expense, my own interest, I was really open to anything that was supported by evidence. But as the evidence grew, as debris was found, as we learned about the co-pilot's cell phone pinging the tower at Penang, it became obvious to me that the so far official version that the plane crashed somewhere in the southeastern Indian Ocean was correct. So I am open to any theory that is supported by evidence. I dismiss any theory that is contradicted by evidence. In fact, if it's contradicted by the evidence, it isn't even a theory. It's a fantasy. So these absolutely wild things that are called theories are really fantasies at best, disinformation at worst. The fantasy that MH370 was shot down in the South China Sea, it's a fantasy because that is disproven by all the evidence there is. The military radar of Malaysia and Thailand, the co-pilot's cell phone pinging the tower at Penang, the Inmarsat data, the whisper data, and most important, the debris from the plane. Because everything, and I know firsthand because I've been down there looking and finding the debris, and other private citizens have found debris who are totally unrelated to me. The debris, it's clear that it is from MH370, it is washing ashore naturally from the crash site, and it is the only physical evidence that we have. So any theory, to be a theory, has to be at least supported by some evidence, not contradicted by the evidence.
Right. On that note, Grace, Malaysia's government has consistently said it will only resume the hunt if there's credible new evidence. What is to you credible new evidence that will justify a new search?
For me, the term credible new evidence, it hasn't been defined by the government. I don't think they know where the threshold is, because if you don't have a threshold or a definition, then how do you know what passes that threshold or what passes that definition? We're in a very sticky situation where we don't have the plane. We don't know exactly where it is. It's difficult to put when they put that bar out there, it's like they say we want an X marks the spot, and then we go and search there. But that's not going to be possible. We only have a region. We cannot have a specific space, a place. And I think that that actually sometimes acts as a hindrance towards a search progressing. And we have companies like Ocean Infinity. In fact, now there's another company called Deep Sea Search that are willing to go and look for the plane on a no cure, no fee basis. And with these proposals coming in, the government really has nothing to lose. So why does this matter? Why does it matter that we have credible new evidence? Because they are searching at their own time, their own cost, their own expense. We're only going to pay when the plane is found, if the plane is found. It's a win-win situation for the Malaysian government. There's absolutely nothing to lose. Yeah. So I don't see a need for this bar, which hasn't even been defined.
Right. Naren, what do you think? Do you think the previous financial justification that it will cost a huge sum of money is now out the window because the Malaysian government does not have to pay if the wreckage is not found?
Yeah, I have a few responses to your question, perhaps also to add what Blaine was saying a little earlier. Let me address your question first. Nothing that I know takes away from Malaysia's responsibility to find the plane and find the truth. All right? Now, just imagine a scenario where there is no company coming forward on a no fine, no fee basis. Are we to believe that Malaysia will therefore, for all times to come, put a lid on the whole matter and pretend that it's business as usual from here on? What does this mean? So I think it makes good sense for Malaysia with both its hands, with all its power, to grab an opportunity when an organization, when a company is willing to come forward and conduct a search. Let's understand, Ocean Infinity or the other company, I think it's Deep Sea Vision, they're commercial enterprises. They're not here for charity. Okay? If they're willing to take a step and head into the ocean to search, I can safely assume that they've done their study, they have researched, they've weighed all the information that's available in the public domain and through their own discussions with scientists and technologists to be increasing the probability, their probability of finding the plane. The risk is theirs, all theirs entirely. So it makes all good sense for the government to go along. And why it should have waited for this long rather than keep open a framework agreement or, for a no fine, no fee kind of a scenario beats me. Because I think there's everything to gain and nothing to lose for the government. Unless the government believes in some way or the other that its position it would be compromised or some facts may emerge that may show it in bad light. I don't know what the apprehensions are. But surely it would make good sense to go along and, hasten with this search. That's my sense. One other thing that I wanted to say, and I think this had to do with something that you would ask Blaine. And I think he was referring to evidence. Now, the point is this. What's unique about MH370 and the entire scenario is step by step, every fact or what we knew as fact has been questioned or turned on its head. Did the plane turn back at Igari? There'll be somebody who will say, no, it did not. Okay. Did it go towards the Southern Indian Ocean? Somebody will say, no, it did not. Did it go to Maldives? Somebody will say, yes, of course, we saw it there. So there have been almost what we take as facts been twisted and shown as if it were a complete falsehood. And so it's been very hard to know what to trust. Is Inmarsat data real? Is it true? Is it falsified? Somebody would say, yes, of course it's spoofed. And somebody would say, no, it's very authentic. Okay. Is military data cooked up? Somebody would say, yeah, but it's not been released, the raw data. So, anything is possible. Today's technology makes anything possible. So now what do you believe? And somewhere there is it's been very hard, I think, at least for me, and I know for a fact with many families, to really know what to put their weight behind. What we know from, at least what I know from the discussion I had with a number of people is that the Inmarsat data is reliable. Okay. And so it points to, and the planes end somewhere in the Southern Indian Ocean. I'm willing to go along with that. Let's look at it this way. If nothing is found, there will be people who will argue that it still doesn't establish that the plane didn't go into the Southern Indian Ocean. Right? There's no way this argument can be won. So the only way that this matter can rest is if we do find the plane.
Yeah.
Or we come upon somebody who has more information to share, but has found whatever reasons to not come forward up until this point, which I think is a possibility. I would not rule that out.
Yeah, that would be the best way of answering the question. But Blaine, can you give us an idea? Can you paint a picture of how big an area of the Indian Ocean, or at least the Southern Indian Ocean, which has not been searched?
First, I just say that I agree absolutely with everything that Naren and Grace have said. The University of Western Australia drift analysis, which guided me in my search for debris, says that the crash site is in an area between 28 degrees south and 33.2 degrees south. The CSIRO drift analysis, which I also respect immensely, has it a little farther south, from around 33 to down around 36. To me, that whole area needs to be searched wider from the 7th arc, new areas from the 7th arc, in order to be sure to find the plane. However, within those areas there are priority zones based on this new tracking method of Whisper, based upon the Inmarsat data. There is also the result of past searches where there have been data gaps and anomalies identified. The anomalies worth a second look. The data gaps means that they searched in that area, but they weren't exactly there. And to see the plane, you have to be right on top of it. So the oceanography is very accurate, very reliable, but it's imprecise. And you need the evidence from the Inmarsat and from Whisper and the experience of past searches to go along with it. I think the area in this search proposal now is about 15,000 square kilometers. I think that if they don't find the plane there, I hope that they would search towards the north until they do find it. But searching new areas, not going back to exactly where they were before. But the truth is, you've got to really be right on top of the wreckage in order to spot it and send the AUVs down there and ROVs to properly scan it and identify it.
Now, I know you probably don't like to talk about this, but you, in your personal endeavors, in your personal searches, you have come under quite intense harassment over the years, character assassinations, etc. But I guess the question is why? Why would they want you to not do what you do and find more light in regards to what happened to MH370?
I think it's a combination of things that I'll go into, but let me first say that I don't want to focus on that because I don't want this to be about me. I am a volunteer here. I decided to get involved into Malaysia 370. Grayson Nairn and the other NOK had no choice. So I don't want the focus to be on me. But I will say that yes, I've been a target of a major disinformation and character assassination campaign. I have received hate messages and threats and death threats. And I think that it is a combination of things. There may be in there some people who do not want the plane found at all for some reason. I think there are also people in there who do not want the plane found unless it's where they say it is. And instead of just accepting the new evidence that comes up from the debris, because that's the evidence I've been producing, they try to discredit that evidence and then unfortunately cross the line and personally attack and defame me. And that's sad. It's okay to question all the evidence within reason, but to personally attack the people, especially private citizens who are going out there to produce it, whether it's working on the Inmarsat data, working on Whisper, or actually finding and reporting debris, that crosses a line that should not be crossed. It is unacceptable, and some of the false accusations against me have been very personally hurtful. But again, this is not about me. This is about renewing the search and finding the plane, giving the families the answers they deserve, the flying public, it's for aviation safety, and giving the government and the people of Malaysia a chance to put this behind them and move on, because that can only be done if the plane is found, and that hopefully will put an end to a lot of these very hurtful conspiracy theories. Anytime there's a mystery, people try to use it and misuse it for their own agenda or their own advantage. So a lot of that is going on. and hopefully finding the plane will end that too.
You are still actively embarking on your searches as we speak.
Not really actively now. If I get a report from any local people in Madagascar of debris, that I look for the photographs and I try to make sure that it gets handed in and into the hands of authorities to be investigated. There is right now one piece of debris in Madagascar that I handed in. It is awaiting delivery to Malaysia, and that's been so for more than a year. And I hope that Malaysia will pay for the delivery of that debris and analyze it and publish it. There's also 2 pieces of debris from Madagascar that I got to Malaysia in 2019, and one from South Africa that came in, I think, in 2020. Those still need to be investigated, analyzed, and published. Right. So I am not actively looking now. However, if there is any debris that I hear of, I make sure that it gets handed in and into the hands of the proper authorities, where I hope it's investigated and published.
Right. So the delay of that one piece of debris you mentioned was because the Malaysian government has refused to pay for the delivery so far?
I would say that they have not yet paid for the delivery, and I hope that they will, because it is sitting in Madagascar in the good hands of Madagascar BEA, and they're just waiting basically the money to send it by courier to Malaysia. And that should be done, but that's been more than a year. So it's time to simply do that. It's a new government now. It's a new minister now, a very good one. And I hope that they will, especially now that the investigation's going on, they're considering a search proposal, that they will pay attention to these items of debris.
Grace, do you think there has been decreasing appetite by the government to actually remain active in this search, or at least the search has been paused, but at least trying to facilitate some developments in finding the answer? And do you think there's been a decline in appetite, and why so?
I wouldn't call it a decline in appetite. There wasn't much of an appetite to begin with. So it's always been very slow on the uptake. There's always been very little initiative, I felt, from the government to step up to the plate, to emphasize the need for the search or for the search to continue. And this has been happening since day one. Since day one, it felt like it was always an uphill struggle for us to constantly push for the search to either resume, restart, go on. And I believe, like other people have been speaking about it, especially Naren has said that if this proposal didn't come from Ocean Infinity, what was the Malaysian government doing in order to further the search? Sure, the proposal came, but what if it hadn't come? Would we still be waiting indefinitely for another search to continue? So I wouldn't call it a decline. I will just call it that it has always been quite slow. There has always been little to no self-starter type initiative from the government, and this has been going on for the last 10 years. I mean, it came to a point that me, myself, and like a couple of other family members funded our own travels to Australia to meet the experts, to get the answers that we were looking for, to find out more about the search and the investigation. We went on our own to the Dutch ship to see the ship, to talk to the crew. We went on our own to Madagascar and to Mauritius, organized our own press conference, organized our own meetings with authorities there, and all at our own time, our own expense, went to fishing villages, made brochures, educated the public, all of our own. I don't think this has ever been done anywhere else in the world following any sort of tragedy. So that has been sort of the struggle that the next of kin for MH370 have always had to go through, right up till now.
Naren, proposal by Ocean Infinity aside, what do you think it will take for the Malaysian government to be more proactive in actually pursuing this?
I just want to piggyback on what Grace, the ground that she covered, and then continue to what you're asking me. One of the most sordid chapters in the search for MH370, I think, was the fact that the families had to undertake a visit all the way to Madagascar okay, looking for debris, knowing from the drift studies that there is a high likelihood of debris landing there. And the government of Malaysia, as far as I know, did nothing to engage the governments to reach an understanding about how and where to search for debris. And believe me, we kept searching in the southern Indian Ocean where it supposedly crashed. The debris was landing something like 4,000 kilometers away. We spent all the dollars in the southern Indian Ocean and zero where we were landing debris. And it just didn't make sense that the government of Malaysia would not think it fit to put in resources, put in diplomatic resources, to talk to the governments there, to the sea coasts. So that, to me, never sat very well. And I think it was emblematic of the broad approach from how put aside the whole thing and, treat it as business as usual, unless pushed, nudged, cajoled, persuaded, pressured to do something. I think it is the case almost from the very beginning. And we've seen that same story continue. So we just ask another question. 2018, the Annex 13 Safety Investigation Report was released. If you recall, the report said nothing new. It came to no conclusions, and we were no better off in terms of knowing what happened after the report. Having said that, I've been trying to understand what has the government done since 2018 to stay engaged with the question, where is MH370 and what happened to it? To the best of my knowledge, the answer is nil. Okay, I don't know if that answers your question. Okay, what has the government done? Nothing. It has waited and waited and waited. I don't know if it even waited. I think it just thought that with the passage of time, with the erosion of memory and the dilution of emotions, the whole matter will die away. Unfortunately, like bad pennies, the families have kept coming back. And they've not dropped it one bit. Okay? And I think we will come back and say, if we can't find something in the southern Indian Ocean, what is your next step? We're not going to say, okay, too bad, I think let's go back home and let's forget about the whole thing. That's not going to happen.
Grace, in an interview last year, you said that you still refer to your mom in the present tense. Do you still do that?
Yes, I still refer to her in the present tense, but it's not because I haven't accepted that what most likely happened. It is just one of those things that occurs as a result of the lack of closure. So there's been an inability for my subconscious mind to bridge with my logical mind and accept fully what has happened. So I find it very difficult to say, oh, she's gone, she's not coming back, or that I never referred to her as she has passed away, or that something has happened to her. I just haven't been able to do it.
Right. So have you accepted it?
Partially, perhaps, maybe not fully, but that's, I think, one of the effects of the lack of closure.
Naren, how about you? Do you still have hope?
That's very interesting. I think quite often I have largely said we lost her in March 2014, which is factually correct. We lost her in 2014. And so it's been a useful device to sort of not talk about her as having passed away. Okay. But the reality is that she is no more in our midst. And I think I've come to terms with that. I have, it's been, the last few years have been quite helpful in reconciling to the fact that there is a new basis on which one has to lead one's life from here on. And I think to that extent, I think I've reached a reasonable settlement with my own emotions, with my own expectations. And I think at the time, I tell myself the time has come to celebrate my wife's life rather than to keep mourning her loss.
Right. Blaine, we have two next of kins here, but I'm sure many more will be watching this show. What's your message to them 10 years on?
My message to them would be just that personally, I have done and will continue to do everything I can to help bring them answers and to help bring them the truth that they deserve. And the next of kin have been the great inspiration to me to search for debris in the first place. It was at the 1-year anniversary when I was inspired by Grace's speech about her mother and moved to tears and realized that I can make a difference by going and searching beaches and shorelines for debris. It was Grace who inspired me to do this. And the 6 pieces of debris I handed in to Madagascar in June of 2016 sat there for 6 months until the families themselves made a trip to Madagascar to make people aware of debris, offer a reward, and collect the debris themselves. It took that to inspire the Malaysian government to actually authorize the trip by the engineer to pick up the debris and deliver it. There should have been, Naren is absolutely right, there should have been an organized search of beaches and shorelines for floating debris long ago. Madagascar proposed it before I went there and found any debris in Madagascar, but Malaysia declined. So the family members are right to have their criticisms. I agree with what Grace and Naren have said. And all I can say is that I cannot possibly, even though many of the 370 family members have become friends of mine, I cannot possibly speak for them. I cannot possibly speak as to or understand fully how they feel. I can't put myself in that position. But to me, their determination has and continues to be an inspiration to solve this mystery and bring them, the flying public, and Malaysia the answers that they deserve.
Right. Grace, I'd like to close with your message for the next of kins and also for the government watching the show.
In fact, I have not just a message for the next of kin and for the government, but I think that the message that I have applies to everybody who's watching this. I believe that MH370, and I really and strongly and truly believe this, that MH370 is not history. That MH370 is the future of aviation safety. Because unless MH370 is found, we cannot prevent something like this from happening again. And we owe it to ourselves to make sure the skies are safer, because today it's us, but tomorrow it can be you.
All right. Naren, closing words from you.
2, 3 things. One, I'd like to tell other families who are in the same boat as Grace and me, keep the faith. It's not in our lifetime. The next one, we will find the plane. We will know what happened. So that's one, and I believe that. The second thing I want to say to the scientific community, the technology people, I would like and wish and hope that the better argument prevails. And I think personal attacks and acrimony do not further anybody's cause. And I wish that, we can be more cordial with each other. That's the second thing. The third thing that I wanted to say, I think to the government of Malaysia, is do the right thing by the people. I know there might be compulsions, but I think beyond the compromises across many compulsions, just keep in mind that there is the right thing to do for your people, for the families, and for the public at large. There is a responsibility that you carry. That's my fervent wish, honestly. I think that's essentially what I wanted to say.
Right. I cannot profess to know how you feel, obviously, but I admire your strength, and I sincerely pray that you will get closure very, very soon. Thank you so much, K.S. Narendran, the next of kin of MH370 victims, calling all the way from India, and also Grace Nathan and Blaine Gibson for joining us. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Dialog Tiga Penjuru. We'll see each other in the next episode. Assalamualaikum, and we'll see you soon.